Hello, everyone. I'm Cassandra, founder of Heal Anxious Attachment, the Hub. With us today, we have Satyam Altunel. He is a transformative and high performance mental coach, somatic healer, and mentor for deep emotional liberation. Rooted in somatic, emotional, and attachment healing, Satyam goes far beyond mindset work and surface level techniques. He guides clients to the source of their anxious patterns. Drawing from his trauma informed trainings to his own lived healing journey, Satyam helps you unravel attachment wounds at the root so you can reclaim inner stability, emotional clarity, and true freedom. Hello, Satyam. Welcome today.
Hi, Cassandra. Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you here. So, today we're going to be speaking about anxious attachment, why you get triggered, and why working on the root is the only way to heal. So, for those of you watching with an anxious attachment style, I'm sure triggers are a big thing for you. Waiting for that text reply that never comes, overthinking what you said, wondering if you did something wrong. These spirals are so common for people with anxious attachment. So, Satyam, let's start here. When someone experiences that kind of emotional spiral after a perceived rejection or abandonment, what's actually happening? Why does something as small as a delayed text feel so threatening?
Okay, so what's happening is reactivation of a memory which is in the nervous system. Let me give you an example for myself. So when I was born, they took me out with cesarean. And that time they would do it with full anesthesia. So my mom was unconscious and they put me into incubator. I had no contact with my mom. And that's a very severe trauma for a baby to have not the caretaker and cold hands maybe from the doctors and so on. So this is a memory stored. And then later on in adulthood, whenever in partnership or I don't know, from a girl, when I wouldn't get a reply back soon, I would start to get nervous. I would get anxious because that memory from back then would be reactivated in my nervous system. And this is what I would experience in that moment again.
So, essentially, this trigger is trauma that's still stored in the body, correct?
Yes. Like can be a wound, can be a trauma. Yeah.
So it's not so much the actual text message or not getting a reply, but it's what it reminds us of, right? That those feelings of abandonment or rejection from our childhood, correct? Or as
Exactly.
you say, even it could be as far back as when we were born.
Yes, yes, exactly. So what's happening in that moment is not really it, but the memory which is reactivated in our nervous system.
And is it possible to release that trauma, even though it happened so long ago from birth, where maybe we don't even have a memory of it?
Yes, of course. With the right work, with the right newer approaches we are having nowadays, where we really can access it through the nervous system, we can release it and transform it. Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit more about that? And I know that this is also connected to, really focusing on the root cause of things, right? So yeah, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more around what it means to get to the root cause of a trigger. And if you can even speak to how you would heal a trauma this old, from birth when there's no implicit memory, that would also be something very valuable for our listeners.
Yes. So first, we need to know what the root cause is. Like without knowing it, I'm kind of blind. For me, it was like I knew my patterns, but I didn't know why I have them. But when I started doing therapy and through my nervous system, the memory just came up in me. Like when you activate the nervous system in the right way, we can go because you have everything stored in your body. Your body knows everything, cell is stored in your cells. And if we are able to activate it in the right way, we can go to the memory. We know what happened, and then we can also release it there.
Beautiful. I like that. And so, what are some of the modalities that you use for this approach?
Yeah, there are different modalities I use. It's just, but first is actually the understanding I gained from my own journey and from my trainings. Like for me, at one point, something really clicked. I understood how we are functioning on all levels, and my work comes really from this understanding and the experience I went through so many things. Yeah, And then the approaches, I use compassion inquiry, I use somatic experiencing, internal family system. They're like parts work. They are amazing approaches.
Okay, beautiful. And so why isn't self-awareness or mindset work enough to stop these spirals?
hmm Like mindset work, for example, is more a symptom-based approach. Like when we give an example, if I have headache and I go to the doctor, and the doctor gives me a painkiller, the headache may go away for a while, but may come back because didn't really treat the root cause. Yeah. So it's more a work on more on the superficial levels, but it's really important to find the root. If we find the root, first we understand. I think this is very crucial to understand what's really happening in me. Where is it coming from? Why am I acting in the way I'm acting? Why am I reacting in that way? And then we can resolve it in the root. And if we resolve it in the root, then automatically we will not be triggered as before. And
Okay. And
like self-awareness, like self-awareness techniques, they are great. Also, mindset work is great. There's nothing wrong about it. But I think when you really want to heal fully, it's not enough because like I can like when something happens like this, when you're an anxious attachment a type and a trigger is very much there, you can try to sit with it and meditate, but it's very difficult. So it's really good to do the root cause work to resolve it there a little bit more. And then you are able to work with the trigger also better. Yeah. So only working with the trigger, you can do it for a long time. And you may not experience the healing you're really aiming for. So therefore, you need to do it parallel.
and is it possible for somebody to address the root cause by themselves?
I couldn't. So possible, but I think it's very rare, and it's much easier to do it with someone because you cannot see yourself. Like it's always better to have someone who's not really very much who maybe doesn't really know you well, but through their expertise, they're able to go through into your system and to find. It's much easier and much more effective also than doing it by yourself. And you at the end, you never know. But when you do it with someone together, it's much easier, much better.
Mhm. Yeah, I really think you need to feel held and safe in order to maybe access those emotions or access those memories, right?
Exactly. And what's happening also, like all kind of mechanisms are sometimes in the way, like protecting the root. This is because what happened in the first place. When you have a core wound, when you have a trauma, you develop a mechanism which is protecting you from feeling. And like with someone together who knows in this moment when a memory is reactivated, what you do in therapy, then this person can really see, okay, the mechanism is there in the moment. This is in the way of the root cause. So I work first with that mechanism to remove it. And when I have it removed, or when the nervous system feels safe, then I can go deeper, not before.
Yeah, 100%. And also from my experience, the healing takes place when when the wound is witnessed, right? When we are witnessed in our pain. Um, so that's, I think, another reason why also trying to heal solo can be so difficult, right? We need that validation of our experience.
Right, right. Like I think it comes really down to feel safe because I know how things changed with me. Like when I had a therapist and I tried many therapists out who really was able to hold in a wonderful space for me and who really saw me and was like, I don't know, she had just this energy where I could really open up fully, which didn't happen before. That's the beauty of it also.
Yes, that's super important to feel that sense of safety and really being held, right, by the person that you're working with. And this is a main part of the hub, right? And why I created it is to, have therapists and coaches on board that really address the root cause. Because I also know from personal experience that talk therapy is not enough, right? Or mindset work, or you're just like, scratching the surface. And so you have to really go deeper in order to get concrete change.
Exactly. Yes.
And so, for the people listening now, let's say they're experiencing a trigger, right? So, we're taking the example of the text message, or maybe something else has happened in their relationships, and they catch themselves like spiraling, overthinking, experiencing a lot of anxiety. What can they do in that moment to defuse the trigger, to ground themselves?
Mhm. What we can really do, because what's happening in the moment is that we really operate very much from here, you know. We are in the spiral, there are many thoughts, there's fear. And when there's fear, you don't want to be in your body because it doesn't feel safe. What's very important here to really allow it, and therefore doing that first with the therapist or the person who can hold space for you is easier because you take the time for it and you feel safe and you do it together. You go into your body. So what we need to do, there's always a reaction in the body when you are triggered. Like, let's say in your chest, you really feel there's this fear in this moment. A heart is racing, so you feel it in the chest. Just put your full attention into your chest. That allows you to come from your head down to your body, you know? And then you can really focus there. And what's very important is to not try to fix it, like not try to get rid of it, but just be really present with it. You can put your hand, like I do it in my hands right now, and then really give it space and just feel it, let it be there. And then we can direct our breath into that region.
Yeah, I love that because also, yeah, from my experience, I think when we suppress things, when we push them away, then they become bigger, right?
Right. So when you do that in the right way, you will feel after a while that it really gets weaker or disappears fully. And then you're much calmer. Then there are not so many thoughts anymore. You're much more rooted and present in your body. But but that alone, just doing that always when you're triggered is, in my understanding, not enough. It's very important to work also on the root, to really resolve it there, because like we don't want to have the trigger always there and develop a technique to deal with the trigger. We want to resolve the root so the trigger doesn't come so much back anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um, okay, so just to recap what you said, essentially, if somebody is feeling triggered in the moment, right, and they want to regulate, what they need to do is just connect with that part of the body, with the emotion, and cultivate that sense of acceptance, right, and just be with the sensation, be with the feeling. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And is there anything else that they can say in the moment, maybe an affirmation, or is there anything else they can do to, yeah, just facilitate that sense of groundedness and peace?
I mean, if you really are come so far that you are able to sit fully with an emotion without wanting to run away from it or rejecting it, or numb it, you're already very high in your journey, because when you're able to do it, you can resolve it on the spot in the moment. So this is the most powerful thing, but it's not easy to do it because we are not really trained to do it. So it's important to, as said, to do it with someone together, maybe who can really teach you how to do it by yourself, where you feel more safe, where you have more space, maybe not always in the moment of the trigger, but maybe later on, and then you will always develop that skill and you will be able to do it also in that moment.
And so, what did you do personally to cultivate that skill for yourself?
It was a long journey to cultivate it. So before I started working in that modalities, I went very deep down my own journey. Like I have lived in an ashram for a couple of years. I did a lot of meditation, a lot of retreats. And then from there, I had already a capability to sit in silence, to be with myself. And that helped me a lot when then I learned the modalities, and this is where I say, like, my work really comes more from an understanding I had to the experience. And then the modalities are just helping me to navigate through the work with people. And I did my work and I still do it. So it doesn't mean like I'm already enlightened. I'm not, but I know I know how I'm functioning, and that's very important. So what I really try to do when someone comes to me, that I give them a full understanding how they are functioning. Yeah. And for me, that includes to really know your core wounds, to know your traumas, to know the coping mechanisms developed out of the trauma and your core beliefs, you know. When you know this, you're already in a very different place because you have answers now. You have like, you know why, you know how you're functioning. And only then you can do the healing work, in my understanding, because otherwise you can work a little bit on that and a little bit on that, which I did for a long time. And it takes a lot of time. But this is much more efficient. If you really have a full understanding of yourself, then you can really work very specifically on that thing and the root of these things, and then you can resolve it.
Yeah, I love that. And so, what is the correlation between core wounds and limiting beliefs?
So like what happens like in a wound is that that you on yourself without the safety of your caretakers cannot deal with it. Yeah. So what you do, you really dissociate from yourself. You just go out of body, you know, and you shut down. And in that moment, you, as said, you create a mechanism to avoid coming into the situation again. Like avoiding coming into the situation means like avoiding these emotions which you cannot regulate on yourself. And then out of that, you create also beliefs about yourself. You know, yeah. When you feel abandonment, then you create a belief of, hey, I'm not good enough. You know, or no one loves me. Like these kind of things.
Yeah, can you mention some of the most common beliefs for people who've experienced wounds of abandonment and rejection, just from your experience?
I'm not loved. I'm not good enough. These two are very strong, you know, and they really stay for a long time. Like we operate through them through our whole life. So that was for me, like, for me was like such a breakthrough to see what the root of my day-to-day life is, the way how I act in life is through these beliefs, through my mechanisms, through my conditioning, through my identification. And that's always like built through that wound and the mechanisms and the beliefs.
Yeah, because if we have the belief, for example, that I'm not good enough or I'm not loved, or maybe that, love will be taken from me or I will be left, I will be abandoned, then it almost becomes a self fulfilling prophecy, right? We start to experience that in our life and in our relationships. And it's the subconscious that's really telling us, to heal and creating, reenacting, let's say, these dynamics so that we can heal the core wounds. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, exactly. And like what's happening in this session, what I'm experiencing with people, when we name these beliefs, and then we don't really work with the belief itself. We work with the root, we work with the trauma, we get it out of body. And then what happens, the belief is not there anymore. Like it just really disappears automatically without working on the belief itself, but working more on the root.
So again, addressing the emotion, going into the memory and so on, right?
Right.
And I sometimes get this question, and I'm curious about your opinion here. So some clients ask me, "Hey, Cass, I went through certain traumatic things growing up, but I don't have any memories. Can you still help me? Can we still, work on the root?"
Yeah. Yeah. So like when people come to me, they don't come with their traumas. Mostly they're unconscious. So, but I have the capability to activate your nervous system in a way that your, as said, your body knows everything. You know, so your body is guiding me to the root, and it always works out. So then we really find, and just also when we have the trust and that, and something guiding us through, like we always find out. You know, we always find out if we been already aware about it or not. So we make the unconscious conscious, and that's very important. Then we can work with it.
Mhm. Okay, so basically, if somebody has no memories or very little memories of their childhood, it's still possible to do this work. Yeah.
Hey, better you don't have, because if you have, you already have an idea. You know, like what I really try to do when I work with someone to get them out of everything they know, to really be very present and curious like a child, and then things happen automatically. So for me, it was the case that I have very little had very little memory of my childhood. But through the right work, memory came. You know, when we really activated my nervous system and where I feel things, then memories started to come. So as said, I experienced my birth, but I have no memory at all. I have no idea. But I really experienced it in the moment, being that baby in the incubator. And I have people who really like getting memories from being in the womb already, you know, before being born. Possible.
Hmm. Yeah, this is really powerful work. You speak a lot about somatics. And for people who are new to the word somatics, can you explain what it means?
Yeah, literally a very easy way to explain is to include the body. Yeah, I think this is the way, or the reason why traditional therapy has mostly failed, because it didn't really include the body as needed. Because in the first place, it happens in the body. So, you know, like what happened to us as children happens in our body. And because of that, we really need to work also with the body, with the nervous system, you know. So otherwise, we are only operating in our mind here. So you cannot heal if you operate only here. You really need to come back into your body and activate memory and go to the root and understand, not only intellectually but really experientially. So that's very important. So somatic really means including. It's more holistic way of doing the healing work. Including the body is essential for healing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, fun fact, soma in Greek means body,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
that's yeah, where the word comes from. And is there something that people can do to help them on this journey? So if they come to you to work on the root cause, are there certain practices that they can do beforehand or during that's really going to help them connect with their bodies and have access to these emotions or memories easier?
Yeah. You don't need to have done anything. You know, of course, it's easier if you are really connected already with your body. So I work with fighters, for example, with MMA fighters, and the work with them is very easy because they work with their body. They are so connected with the body. It's very easy for them to access the body, to access the nervous system, to get the memories, and to really do the work which needs to be done. It's easy with them to do it rather than with someone who's really disconnected. But that's not important. It's possible with anybody. You don't need to have any experience. Like it's possible to reactivate, to work also with that, what is in the way of connecting. That's very important. You know, as said, there are many mechanisms in the way, which just there is just to protect you. You know, all the protective mechanisms will show up when you do the work. And it's important to address them. And here also, we don't want to cut them away. What we want to include them. We want to integrate them because they are part of us, you know, like this is what medicine always tries to do. They cut things out from our body. I think this is the wrong approach. Because a protective part, if you fight it, it will fight back. But if you really see it for what it is, if you include it, then willingly it wants to cooperate and to be included.
Yeah, I love that. And I think these protective parts, they often also appear as coping mechanisms, right? And through these coping mechanisms, people essentially avoid feeling or avoid, the uncomfortable emotions. And so, what are some common coping mechanisms that you see?
Yeah. Like mostly coping mechanisms are unconscious. So like otherwise you wouldn't really do it because no one wants to be blocked, you know, in a way. So like a very easy coping mechanism is just to avoid through being busy all the time, overwork, you know, or numb yourself with drugs. All these are coping mechanisms, you know, where you don't come to a place where nothing is happening, where you are more or less forced to feel what's going on in the moment, to feel yourself, to witness your thoughts, to be in your body.
Yeah, 100%. And with these coping mechanisms, um, essentially there are ways that we're trying to protect ourselves, right, from overwhelm, from feeling discomfort. So in a way, if we look at it under the lens of shadow work, they're serving us, right? in the moment, but then maybe blocking us in the future.
They they have served us when the incident or the event happened, but later on in adulthood, they mostly block us. But what they actually want, they want to protect you. They don't want to harm you. But what they do, they're actually not very smart. You know, because let me give you an example of a fighter. So a fighter, when he steps into a cage, it's a very dangerous situation. And when he didn't address his coping mechanisms, he will be blocked by them. Because when I work with fighters who say, "Hey, I had a perfect training camp. I'm like super strong. I'm healthy, weight cut, gaining, everything good. But when I step into the cage, my body freezes, and I don't know why." The body wants to protect you in this moment and freezes you. But it's actually not smart because you need to be very loose to be able to fight. So when we work then in the one-to-one sessions and we address it and we work it out, then they are able to deal with it in the moment when like, or to really to cultivate a way of integrate them rather than just being affected by it, no? So then they are not there, and then they can really defend themselves. And we really make sure the coping mechanism understands that it needs to step back in the moment, that this is the real protection, because this person consciously puts himself into the situation because this is their sport. This is what they really willingly want to do, you know. But if you have a unconscious coping mechanism in that moment, you'll be blocked. You lose your fight, and it's even dangerous for you. You get hurt.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, all right. So it's a lot about also understanding the role of these coping mechanisms and that they're indeed there to protect us, to help us, and then shifting them into something maybe more beneficial now that we are adults, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Therefore, I said understanding is very important. How you are functioning. So understanding of your core wounds, why you have these certain coping mechanisms, why you have these certain core beliefs, because they are connected to this wound or the trauma or whatsoever. And then I have a better understanding, and then I can integrate them only then.
Beautiful. And so, for people who've maybe been doing inner work for years but still find themselves getting triggered, what might they be missing?
Yeah, maybe that they didn't really find, like for me, it was a long time like this. I didn't really know where things are coming from. Even I was doing very strong spiritual work. Said I lived in an ashram, I lived like a monk, I meditated for a long time. I attended countless retreats, but something was not really breaking in me. I knew there is something, but I didn't know what. So then when I started doing therapy, I started to understand. And then something was able to go out of the way, and I could absorb the understanding better and the silence better. So yeah, so it's just really maybe they haven't addressed the root cause of their challenges and their problems. And as said, for me, it's essential because I've been doing this work for maybe 10 years, and I see how, because sometimes people come to me who did 10, 20 years of therapy, and I ask them, okay, what changed? And they say almost nothing. And then in one session, they're breaking through something they didn't break through for 20 years, you know? So it's just the right understanding and the right work to be done. And then things are really shifting very fast also. It doesn't really need to take a long time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know for the people listening, a pattern that's very common, especially for those with an anxious attachment style, is being in relationships with partners that are more avoidant or emotionally unavailable. And there's this push and pull dynamic. So, from your experience, where does that come from? What is usually the root cause of that pattern?
Yeah. Maybe if I tell you my root cause, then I can explain in the best way. So I for a long time, attracted avoidant people and emotionally unavailable people. So as I told you, my birth trauma. So no one was there. I was by myself as a baby, and like a baby can't cope with that. You know, shuts completely down. And then I had also emotionally unavailable parents. So what I what I do, I seek love through like emotional unavailable people, because this is what I know. This is where I believe this is love, there I get it, you know? Like, and I always like to turn a no into a yes. So, but there's a no, you know? So that was very crucial at one point to understand what I'm actually doing, that I'm attracting this kind of people because I am seeking it there, you know? So it doesn't happen out of nowhere. There's something in us which attracts this kind of people. And it's a very difficult dynamic, you know, the anxious attachment type and the avoidant type. Like it's a very difficult, especially for the anxious type. It can really be the hell. As for that, it's very important to, even being in a relationship, to do your own work, to do your individual work, you know.
Yeah, that anxious avoidant dance is super painful, very common. I think at the end, we choose what feels familiar, right? And
Yes.
so if we grew up in these family environments where we had to earn love, where our parents were emotionally detached or unavailable, we sort of seek partners so that we can reenact that dynamic.
Yeah. And the work was then to recognize when I'm doing this and to say consciously no to some, like as early as possible, without being already involved too much, because as more you're involved in it, as more difficult it is to come out. As early as possible to avoid it and say no, and to stay with yourself, you know. That is the work which needs to be done then. And now, of course, with working with that, what's happening, and then slowly, you will change that in you. You will change the pattern, and then you will attract also different kind of people.
Hmm. And something that I've also noticed in my journey is that, by default, there's going to be a bit more polarity and attraction towards the avoidance, right? And that's just how the world works. Opposites attract. And, I've experienced it myself. I've also heard it from clients saying that, oh, I met a stable, secure guy and it's just boring, right? Do you have any ideas of how we can start rewiring that pattern to not find safety or stability boring and
Yeah,
cultivate polarity within that more healthy dynamic?
yeah. I think that happens because there's something still in you which wants that, or has the illusion that this is good for you, you know? So there's still something in you which is attracting you more to that person, which actually brings you more pain. And you're bored with something which is actually good for you. So there's still something in you. I think it's very important to address that and to be very aware what's going on, and to really find out why. You know, why am I bored with a person who actually is good for me? And why am I attracted to someone who's not good for me? That's something.
Yeah, I think in these scenarios, often we mix up intensity with intimacy, right? And it's really important to start decoupling the two and realizing that that's not intimacy,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
intimacy is
And
more about safety.
yeah. And if you do the right work, this understanding will come automatically. You will understand so many things you never thought about. Like, you know, this is the beauty, because you don't need to figure it out yourself or you figure it out intellectually. When you do the right work, the true and needed understanding will come automatically to you.
Yeah, so it's just like organically, it will start arising. And as you start doing the work, you'll be making better and maybe more healthy decisions in your relationships. Yeah.
Exactly.
Beautiful. And so on your website and your bio, you speak about emotional liberation. What does that actually mean to you? And how does it show up in relationships?
Yeah. I call it like emotional mastery,
Hmm.
because what I witness is that many of us, me including, we didn't, or we don't really know what emotions essentially are. Yeah. There are like different layers of feelings. There are more superficial layers and deep emotions. And mostly we experience superficial layers. For example, a guy asks a girl out and she says, no. And when I ask this person, hey, what do you feel? And then he says, I feel rejected. Rejection is not an emotion. Rejection is an interpretation to what's happening to you. Yeah. If I go into a process with that person with that feeling of rejection, he may come a bit deeper and feel, hey, what I'm actually feeling in that moment is hate towards the person because this person did that, or hate towards me myself because I'm not good enough, or maybe I'm not good looking, maybe I don't have enough money. This is still interpretation. But when I stay with that feeling and go even deeper, he may experience what's underneath is sadness or emotional pain or anger. These are more the root emotions. And it's very important to find out what I'm feeling deeply and stay with it in the right way. Otherwise, I will be always on my mind, always on interpretation, you know, and I don't really feel what's really going on. So I don't live reality if I don't learn what emotions are and what I'm experiencing in that moment. So for me, like a very important part of my work is to really bring people to the understanding what emotions are and how to recognize them and how to feel them true so that they get released.
Yeah, and I think for those with an anxious attachment style, we feel emotions intensely. Those people I think tend to be empaths or highly sensitive and maybe hypervigilant. So I assume that this work is super important when we're looking to heal our anxious attachment and become more secure, correct?
Yes, yes, yeah, because we need to learn to regulate our emotions. Like it's the same. Either you don't feel enough or you feel too much. There's an irregulation. Need to regulate it, and it can happen only if we really train it. Like train to be and stay and sit and feel our emotions in a safe space, and then they get more familiar because what's actually happening, the fear of emotions comes more out of an idea about them. But what I found out when people then experience their emotions with me together, they realize, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. It's not as dangerous as I thought. And it's so liberating because when they feel them true, they come to peace, they come to joy, and this is why emotions are a real gift, and we need to use them. And because we can come to higher states of consciousness, we can come to more presence, we can come to more joyful feelings.
Yes. And this is how we cultivate more resilience, right? And how we're also able to just sit with discomfort, because I think that's a big part with anxious attachment. If we go way back to the initial example of not receiving a text message, my inability to be with discomfort, I have thoughts maybe of like, did I say something wrong? Is he going to leave me? Is he going to break up? So I reach out because I want to attain regulation, right? And I'm not able to sort of sit in what I call the void, right? This unknown space of discomfort. And so when we do this work, I think we become more resilient and able to sit with uncomfortable emotions, right?
Absolutely.
And this is the cornerstone maybe of secure attachment. So I think this work is incredibly foundational.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What happens also that you become very secure in yourself. You become very rooted. You become very present. And if you are very present, it like the other person feels that too. So it regulates even the other person too. As more chaotic you are in yourself, as more you will trigger the other person and other way around. So therefore, it's very important to do the work individually. You can really help each other because when you sit next to a person who's really calm, who's very rooted, it's a very different experience in yourself. You automatically calm down. You feel more present. You feel more like much better, more in peace.
That's the co-regulation that they speak about,
Yes.
right? Wonderful. Okay, so this has been an incredible conversation. Do you have any other piece of advice for somebody that's just starting their healing journey right now and they want to move from anxious to secure?
Yeah. So what I can say, you don't need to go through a long journey as I went through or you went through, other practitioners I know went through. You find, I think, this platform is beautiful because you put people together who bring quality. And if you work with someone who really knows how to address what's really going on in you and to guide you through. It's such a shortcut, and you really avoid of going a long way. You avoid also of paying a lot of money here and there. As said, you can work on so many. Like I did it for a long time. I worked a bit on that. I worked a bit on that, on this. But when I got a full picture, what's going really on in me, like I knew, okay, this is what I need to do. So I have a direction, I have more or less a plan, and that's much more, like much shorter, much more efficient. So find someone and do it together. Like, because like I also, before I had a tendency to want to do it by myself, because this is how I used to. I'm used from my upbringing to deal with everything by myself. So that's more known to me. But when I eventually started to seek help and was open to help, things shifted in a much, much faster way. And it's also nice to be, as you said, be witnessed by someone who's doing that with you, who really feels you, who sees you. I think that's like, for me, it was the most important thing, that I had someone who finally could see me, didn't want to change me, but was able to hold space for me. That alone is healing.
I totally agree. Yeah, that's some great advice. And healing doesn't have to take years and years, right? Especially if you have the right practitioner, you're addressing the root cause. Things can just shift in a moment, right? With that awareness, with the right support. So, yeah, for those of you listening,
Yeah, maybe one more thing. Maybe there's one misunderstanding in the healing journey, which was also for me the case, that we want to reach a place where we resolved everything and everything is good. But I think what's some things, they may maybe take a longer time or maybe never go away. But the difference is to be able to deal with everything what's happening in the right way. You know, that's already enough. If I'm able to be and to sit with something uncomfortable without needing to fight back, to react, to numb myself, then that's already great, you know. So that, like, as said, we sometimes have this goal, we need to resolve everything, but it happens by itself, and you relax at this journey at one point. And if you really get to the point where you're able to deal with what's happening, you're already a master of life.
yeah, and I think it's not really possible to resolve everything, right? And it's not about perfection here. Or also, some people have this thinking that, oh, I have to be completely healed before I get into a relationship. And I think
Totally
that's really not true.
very wrong, because like I think our society and our modern world, or like we hear this also a lot from social media, from coaches. So you need to be happy on your own first to be happy with someone else. No, like we are getting away from connection. What we really need is connection, so we can heal with being with people, being in a relationship, you know. And just really trusting that everything what's happening is right, you know. And if possible, to not really have an idea and act through an idea or a concept. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, there's so much healing work that we can do alone. And then the rest is done in relationship, right? We heal in relationship. And
Yeah, like you need to integrate. And I think, yeah, you need to integrate, and integration happens only in actuality, in the experience itself, you know. Like it doesn't happen only in the setting of a session, or going and meditating in the cave. And also, that a very important part, I feel, we do the therapeutic work is to not improve the person, but more to be free from the identification of the persona. Yeah, I think this is a very important, to include the spiritual work, so to say, and combine it. We cannot do only therapeutic work or only spiritual work. We need to do both, you know, to harmonize both together, and that will bring us to a much higher place than doing only one part.
beautiful. Yeah. So this conversation was amazing. I think there's so many beautiful nuggets of wisdom here. And so, for those of you who really resonated with this talk today, you can head over to healanxiousattachment.com and access Satyam's profile. He's got his contact details there, and you can reach out and inquire working with him. So, right now, you are accepting clients. Is that right?
Yeah. And you can do it online, so you don't need to be in a specific place. Yes.
All right, wonderful. So, yeah, you can access all of his details on the website and connect with Satyam. Yeah, so thank you so much for today. This was a beautiful conversation, and I hope to speak to you again soon.
Thank you, Cassandra.
Thank you.